Hello, sweet friends. This is Gina. Welcome to the TheReBookery channel. Today I'm going to flip through my 20 journals that I'm going to put in my shop this Saturday, December 2nd at, let's go 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, Kansas City, Missouri, United States. So I don't want this video to be forever, but with 20 journals, I really kind of wanted to put it all in one video. And I think what I'm going to do is I will flip through the 3 different styles of journals that I have and then talk to you about if I have a specific one that maybe has a couple of cool little elements that maybe you won't find in the other ones. And then on my Etsy listings, I've taken a lot of time to do photos and give you a detailed description of what the journals will entail. So that way you'll see generally what they look like, and then I won't have a video that lasts for 5 hours. So I'm going to start with my large journals, and then I will go to my smaller journals that are O-wire bound, and then I have 4 mini journals that are O-wire bound. So for these books, this time for this collection, I made these all like childhood favorites. And my thought process was I'm obsessed with little golden books, and I love using them. I love finding ones that have been torn up and, you know, seen better days. And I just love giving them a new life. Now, you don't have to be a kid to enjoy these books. You don't have to journal about kid-themed things or use them for like baby books, but they just have a playful flair to them. And I used a lot of fun, playful papers in addition to the stories that are in each of the journals. So don't think that these have to be kid journals or these have to be baby books or things that are centered around, you know, things that you do with your kids and things like that. They just have a more playful, fun, kid-like feel to them, but they still have a lot of my elements that I like within my journals, like sewing patterns and embroidery patterns and tablet paper and things like that. So you don't have to be a kid to enjoy these books. Some of these have the complete story in them, and I made sure, and that was kind of a feat in itself, to go back and take the book apart and then put the story back in the correct order. So this is one of the ones that has the correct, or the whole story, and it's in its correct order. So all of these larger journals have about a 3.5-inch spine. They have 7 signatures. And then on the stitching, I did every other one will have buttons. So you'll get like 4 buttons that has secured the stitching. And then it'll have a fabric spine. I put vintage buttons on the 4 corners of the spine. And then they all have an eyelet on both the front and the back. And then some sort of seam binding or ribbon that you could use to tie them together. And then you can see they're pretty fat right here at the back towards the spine, but you've got a lot of room to add your own embellishments and pictures and things like that. And then of course they're going to be fat over here on this side because that's where I've done a lot of fabric and trims along the edges. So I tried not to make these super, super thick. Each signature has 5 pages. There are a few signatures in each book that have 6 pages. So if you take 5 and I folded it in half, that would be 10. 10 times 7 is 70. And then if I did fronts and backs, 70 times 2 would give you about 140. So at the very least, you're going to have 140 surfaces to journal on. I also tried to make these journals very interactive. I used a lot of details, pockets, tags, flips, spinners that I don't normally put in journals. And this was so much fun to do that. So let me flip through this one right here. I'm going to make sure it's in focus and everything. All right, we're good. So on the outside, I had fabric binding or fabric that was on the spine. On the inside, I will have some wallpaper that has been glued in to help put the spine together. And then there will be a little book plate. So, and then I also have buttons on each of the 4, you'll see, and then they just are secured to the button that's on the back. So in the signatures, you will find cardstock that I have turned into like file folder tabs. There will be scrapbook paper that I've sewn together, different kinds. I've tried to coordinate them, but also give you a lot of freedom with colors and things like that. Then I will have the actual book pages. And like I said, I tried really hard to go back through and make sure that they were all in order. And I even numbered the pages. So here's some notebook paper that I have glued together and made it nice and thick and then stitched all the way around. Some cardstock that is blank on one side. The other end of the notebook paper, which has a pocket and a couple of tags. The storybook pages, scrapbook paper. I have incorporated my waterfall. If you saw my video on waterfall pockets that you can make out of envelopes, I included in my larger journals, I included a waterfall pocket for each one of the larger journals, and I put a little, like a peek hole so that you could see what's inside of there, and then I left the little window in the envelope. I added some fun frames, some elements that I haven't done here recently, or haven't done at all in journals that I've sold. I do them in my own journals, but I haven't tried selling them. So this is just a frame, and then I sewed 2 sides so you can tuck something in, a picture or some journaling. I actually just put a journaling card in there. There is some embroidery fabric, patterns, and then some storybook pages from just older books that I've glued and stitched. This is a die cut, I guess it's the cutout part, so it's the part that you wouldn't use. And I ran across a supply of these at one of my favorite thrift stores. And so I turned them into little pockets. And so there will be a tag. And then this has been stitched to a piece of vellum. More storybook pages, scrapbook paper, the other side of the vellum. So I did a video on this. This is where I took some more discarded cutoffs from die cuts, and I cut them down. The circle was already there, but I cut them down and made them into a frame, and it's a pocket. And then I put a small little book page in there, added some embossing, some more pockets, some children's dictionary pages. Here's another frame that has a circle peek hole. Here is a pocket that I made from, so this is an old bank ledger, and I don't think it's very old. Like, I think it's probably, early 2000s or late 1990s. And then I just sewed some of my pretty tulle fabric on here. And then there's wallpaper scrap. And then there's a little game piece game board that's I turned into a journaling card. And then there's the other side of that. Here is a clock that I used to use when I taught elementary school to teach my kiddos how to read an analog clock. So I found a supply of these and I made those into pockets. And then this is a journaling card. I got this from an estate sale a long time ago. This is vintage. It's 1950. Each book will have a different one. And it was some sort of a reading program. And these were the little pages that went in this reading program. So there was a story on the back and then there was a picture on the front. Flashcards. This was a book page from a different book. It wasn't the same as this. It was a book cover. And then I made a pocket out of it. So I stuck in, this is actually a Flintstones book page. It's a dictionary. But this has some peek holes in it. So you can slide in whatever you want there. Some ledger paper that has some writing on it. Some parchment paper. A 19, what is this one? Is it 73? Nope, 77. A 1977 calendar page that I've turned into an envelope and just stuck some book pages and some flashcards in there. So there's lots of room for you to do your journaling and make this your own. I like to think of it as I give you the basics and then you can turn this into whatever magical journal you want it to be. So this was one of those spinners that I talked about, and this was just a game spinner. It's not vintage, I'm sure. Like I said, probably 2000s or late 1990s. And then just put a little circle from a book page there, a brad, and then the little spinner. And then on the back, you have a library card with a tag that I've sewed some fabric on. Little envelope with an old thank you card that's blank. And I thought that it fit so perfectly there. So back to what I was saying, I like to leave this as blank as possible. I want to add a lot of special touches like fabrics and stuff that you may not have, because that's kind of what I love to do with these journals, is to spread some of the love of the vintage things that I have, like playing cards and wallpaper and tablet paper that I know not everybody has, and kind of have those be the basis of the journal, but then leave a lot of blank room for you to put your own touches and your own stories and your own photos in the journal and really kind of make it yours. So this is some bank notes. I just turned it into just a little journaling pocket where you could slip in a tag or photo or whatever it is that you had. And then blank ledger paper, the last page of the book. And then some of my favorite fabric is this fabric with this little girl and these little teddy bears on it. And then here's the back. So basically that is what you're going to get with the large journal. And so the ones I have are Little Pussycat. It has the complete story. This Return to Oz, it has the complete story also, and it has the same components. Hansel and Gretel, again, the complete story, same components. I love the fabric on this one. Muggins Takes Off. This was a Rand McNally book. This is not a little golden book, and this one was in really sad shape. So I embossed the cover on this, added some of my groovy, I don't even think it's polyester. I can't even think what this fabric is, but it's really heavy. So I added some of that groovy fabric and just really had a lot of fun with this one. Now, Muggins, because it was in such bad shape, the spine was, I don't know, it just wasn't working really well for me. So it's a very stiff spine. It will still lay flat, but it's a stiffer spine. So it doesn't have as much give as the other ones. And then with Muggins, I kind of did a space theme with him and a science-y theme. So whereas these guys are just more general and more just fun, playful elements, I kind of pulled in some space themed things with this one. And I know one of them was an old weekly reader. So back when I used to teach elementary school, I would get the weekly readers and I would go and laminate them so that I could put them in the reading center and my kids could read them over and over again. And I just have a stack of them. So I took those and then made them into pockets and cut little peek holes in them. And actually this is kind of cool because this is that Flintstones dictionary page and there's the word moon right there, and this just happens to be space. And I did not plan for that to happen. So just like I said, some space elements in this book. So it's got a little bit of a space theme. You wouldn't necessarily have to make this a whole space journal, but it definitely could go that direction. And then instead of vellum on this one, I used an old transparency on electricity and magnetism. So this is an old transparency that sadly I would have used to teach with back when I very first started teaching, because I still used overhead projectors back then. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then here's the other side of that. And I hope this is in focus. Okay, so yeah, so then that's Muggins. And then this is some of my favorite trim that I've been holding on to forever and I've been wanting to use. Okay, so then there is this one. I love, love, love the colors on this one. This is Circus Time. This one I had trouble with being able to put the whole story in, because this was such an old book that it didn't have the 12 pages that these guys had. So this one had more pages and it just wasn't going to work to be able to put the story all together. So what I did on this one was I sewed in my story pages. They're not in order. I just sewed them in any random order. And the cool thing about old golden books is that the way they would print them is that they would have black and white on one side, and then the other side would be color. So your illustration is going to be really cool in this, because you're going to get some black and whites and some color ones. And so then what I did with the extra pages is I went to, oh, there's your waterfall in this one. I went to the envelope, wherever your envelope is. Oh, Lordy, I can't find it. There we go. In your envelope, I just gave you the extra pages that I wasn't able to sew into the book. So you could use those to help you do some journaling, because it's the pages from this book right here, this Circus Time book. And like I said, this was definitely an old, and you can tell by the spine, or I mean by the cover, this was an older golden book. Then this one is Susie's New Stove. This is a cookbook, but it also had a story in it. This was in really bad shape, because you can see it's really old. I wasn't able to put the whole story back together. So I put as many pages in as I possibly could, and it's a sweet little story, and there's little recipes and stuff that were in this book, like making a candle salad, and I think there's one on how to make cheese toast and chocolate pudding. So just awesome little book pages, but it's not going to be the complete story. And I didn't even have enough pages to put the extras in the envelope. So let me see what I did put in the envelope here. Oh, I just gave you some other vintage book pages. So in here you'll get some other vintage book pages, but they weren't from this book. And then the last one of my bigger journals is this 3 bedtime stories, and this was in sad shape. Look at this. This was an old cover, so really sad shape. I put on the metal corners. Actually, this was the reason why I put the metal corners on, is because this book was in such bad shape and I really needed to make it durable. So, and it has one of my favorite buttons on it. So this guy does not, sadly, I was not able to put in the story as a journal page. The pages were just too old and too fragile. So what I did was I went to another storybook, and I actually took those pages from different storybooks and I used them as the journal pages. So then I took the pages from this book that were very old, and I've got all of them in the envelope. So you actually get the book pages if I was able to salvage them, which I have quite a few here. You're just not getting them as journal pages, which is kind of cool, because you could just use these, I guess, as your journaling ephemera and stuff like that. So that is the 3 bedtime stories. So those are the large journals. Next style I have is the same theme. I was thinking fun, childhood, not necessarily babies or have to use for a child. It's just, these are really playful, and I use lots of playful pages, lots of playful wrapping paper and ephemera. So it's just kind of fun and whimsical, but you could put your own spin on it. I tried to keep the complete story if I could. So let me show you. I have 9 of these. So again, these books, depending on the condition they were in, like this one was an old one, I can tell by the cover, that determined what I had to do to the outside of it. And then on the inside, I tried to keep it as clean as possible, but pretty much these all have the same components. So tried to keep the story if at all possible. There will be a bingo card with a Dick and Jane book page, and the Dick and Jane book pages are seriously old. So you may get one that has some children's writing on it. You may get one that has some staining from time. This was like from a school kit, like teaching kids how to read directions and things like that. So it's a nice card, hefty card like weight. And then on the back of it, a little envelope with a playing card. And then this is just a password game card with a little flare pen, I think is what those are called, and it's just adhered to it. Here's one of those, again, those little cards that were like the reading cards. So you'll get one of these tucked in a little envelope. And then cardstock, cards. So on these books, I got pretty creative. I found a stash of these like photo slides for 35mm film. And so they're kind of beat up, but I used these in this journal, in these little books that I have. And I put like little tags in them, or I'd put a little picture from a book page, and you can kind of do your own thing with this. If you want to journal on this tag, you can, or you put your own little picture back behind there. And then I just secured them with a staple or two to kind of hold them in place. Lots of fabric trim. And then this is where I kind of used some of my wrapping paper that I don't normally get to use. But it's kind of baby themed, child themed, but here's why I used it. Not because of the babies and the childs and children and all that good stuff, but because it had just such cute colors and their pastels and maybe really, really cute images. And I love using paper like that in my journal, even when I'm not journaling about kids or babies or anything, just because, one, I like the color, I like the pattern, and I love the randomness. I love just having, some baby paper or something on a journal spread, and just kind of, maybe it has significance, maybe it doesn't. So you're going to see some pages like that included in here. Here's another one of those frames that I made. Some tablet paper that's been glued together. Another photo slide. This one I just put some fabric behind it. Some music pages. Some shorter paper. This is notebook paper that I've glued together. An envelope that I made out of like a coloring book cover, and then just stuck some tags in here. And I should have mentioned this, but each one of these journals all 3 of the different styles are going to come with this little pouch that I made, and I put some goodies in it. And I'm kind of excited about the goodies because they're pretty interactive. So this is a book page from a Bambi book, and then I just made a pocket out of it. Coloring book page that's been glued together so it's nice and thick. This is kind of like a little peek hole where you could put something back here that'll show through, or you could put something here adhere to the back of it, like some decorative paper or maybe a picture, or something see-through would be kind of cool. These are some cards, like invitations or thank you cards that I've just kind of cut out and turned into an interactive element where you could put something here, you could glue around it, you could journal on it. And then, oh, this is some of my favoriteest wrapping paper ever. And again, it's got babies on it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be babies. I love the colors, the turquoise, the green, the pink. Oh my gosh. And then it's backed on some tablet paper. A little pocket back here with a tag. And then I took the actual slides out of those little photo slides and sewed those onto the tag that you'll get in the back. So they're all kind of set up the same. This is Dumbo. This is the Little Mother Goose. Oh, some more of that favorite paper. This is an old Peter Rabbit, and I mean old. It's like really old. And the thing with this one, if I can find it, I think this might be the one. I love that little photo slide. There's this really cool wrapping paper that I have some, and I don't use it very often, but I thought I had used it in here. I know I've used it in one of these journals. Oh, like, and then I just put recipe, you know, in here. I mean, why not? You know, Peter Rabbit, let's put some recipes in here, and then backed it onto some scrapbook paper. Oh, here's one of them. I love this wrapping paper. So this is some older wrapping paper that I have. And then on this one, because the back cover was so pretty, I didn't want to cover that up with a library card pocket. So I just put one of my clear packing lists as your tag holder. Gosh darn it. I wish I could find that wrapping paper. Okay, it's in another journal. So anyway, there's an old Peter Rabbit. There is a newer Peter Rabbit. Okay, so, and then this one is a little more updated. It's not as old. Oh, here's the wrapping paper. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is like my favorite wrapping paper ever. I love this, and I don't have very much of it. It's like a 1960s, 1970s, and it's all these little kids. And I love that it just has all these beautiful muted colors. I love that it's got all kinds of different faces and different ethnicities, and it's just the most precious paper ever. And you don't have to journal about babies. Gosh, I really love this paper. You don't have to journal about babies, but oh my gosh, what a cool piece of paper to use in your journaling. And then this one, I paired this with a piece of modern scrapbook paper that had trains on it. So I thought they kind of went together. The colors kind of went together. So that is the newer Peter Rabbit. Then there's this one, Good Night Little Bear. Love, love, love this one. So I kind of made this one kind of spacey and nighttime. So added some darker colors in this one. Did the same components with the pockets and the tags, kept the story intact. This one had to have a whole new back cover. So it's just kind of, it's a golden book cover. It's just I had to recover it. So it's got some cool paper on the back. Saggy Baggy Elephant, the complete story. Love, love, love this. This is an old one. So the pictures and the illustrations, you know, really kind of have that old-timey feel. And then this one's kind of got a little bit of trim that I hand sewed onto the cover. The Fuzzy Duckling, I love this one just because I love ducks and I just love the color yellow, and this was just so much fun to do because I got to pull in, like, I love this right here. This is so cute. Oh, I just got to pull in all kinds of fun little ducky things and lots of really cool colors. Here's a frame. So, and then this is the photo slide for that one. Tawny Scrawny Lion, again, the complete story and the same components. Love that ruching that I did there when I sewed that. This one's probably a 1970s or 1980s copy. And then, of course, the Pokey Little Puppy, because you can't have childhood favorites without the Pokey Little Puppy. So this one is all decked out. Complete story. I tied some little beads and a little key on here. So kind of like some little charms and stuff that I have on here. And then the exact same components as the other ones. You know, pretty much followed the same. Oh, look at that wrapping paper. I love it. So this is matte wrapping paper. This was a little bit thicker. And again, this 1960s, 1970s. And then I backed it onto some tablet paper. So it's nice and thick with that yellow lace. Oh, that looks so awesome. And then another little card here that you could turn into. This is an anniversary card that you could turn into some sort of an element. Okay, so there are 9 of these. The last 4 books that I will have in my Etsy shop are just like the ones that I showed you, except they are mini versions. So again, playing off of the whole thing of childhood favorites, childhood memories, you know, what was the cool stuff that you loved when you were a little kid? Well, Pussycats, puppy dogs, ponies, insects. So these little mini journals are just a scaled down version of those bigger ones. So let me walk you through. Let's do Patsy the Pussycat. So these guys are Telltale books. I've used wrapping paper, just some fun little, like my kids loved Webkins, and so I had some of those cards laying around, and so I tried to tie it in with the whole animal thing. Complete story. Look at that wrapping paper. Love it. Lots of fabric trim, ledger paper, some sewing embroidery pattern paper that's been backed to tablet paper. Some old maid cards. Made one of my little file folders out of an old worksheet and then stitched it on there. Some maps that have been stitched all the way around except for the bound side, and then they have tablet paper glued to the back, so it's going to be nice and thick for you. A little frame that has a circle peephole. Another fun little card. This is cool. So this is tablet paper on the front, glued to, looks like a highlights magazine, and then an old school worksheet. And then I just just stitched in a little piece of scrapbook paper. Some really funky fabric here with some nice thick cardstock. Again, guys, I tried to show you the way to, like, here's how you can get started. Here's enough little ephemera and doodads and stuff that can get your juices flowing, but then left you enough room that you could make this your own. You can be totally whatever you want it to be. So I got a stash of fabric yo-yos. I think I told you guys in a video that one time I tried making a whole bunch of these, but I actually got a stash of these. And so I sewed fabric yo-yos into these little mini journals because, I don't know, they're just so darn cute. So I stuck those in there. This is a little pocket. So let me see here. It's like a index file thing, tab thing. It's pretty thick. And then this is just some sentence strip that I used to use when I was an elementary teacher. And then I just turned it into a little pocket and I stuck some little book pages, and then just some cutouts from a book page. So tuck that in that pocket. More embroidery pattern. Some textured cardstock. Lots of my quilting fabric triangles. I love using that. That triangle just kind of adds a different little element to the journal page because it's not a square, it's not a circle, it's triangle. It's kind of unexpected. This, because why the heck not? And if you don't like Tinkerbell, well, then you could cover it up, but it's blank on the inside. And then some tablet paper with that really cute little kitty cat wrapping paper. An envelope at the back with some tags that I've done some sewed some trim on, and then there's the back of it. So for this one, like I said, I have Patsy the Pussycat, A Moth is Born. I love this one. This is really sciencey and just, it is so fun because, I don't know, I just think the story is kind of fun. The Little Book of Dogs. I love this story because it's got different dogs in it. And it's a 1970s book, so it's kind of got that groovy 1970s vibe. Like, check this out. Look at these bell bottoms. I freaking love that. That is so cute. And then there's a little chihuahua. This book is so awesome. I love this book. If it had a basset hound in here, I would definitely be keeping this. But it doesn't have a basset hound, so I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let somebody else have it. And then there's the little yo-yos. Oh, I love it. And then a goat. Why not? Why not put a goat in there? It doesn't have to be all dogs. It can be goats and whatever else you want it to be. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Puppies for sale. Yep. Okay, and then I have one more. Where the heck did it go? Oh, here it is. The Pony Who Couldn't Say Nay. So again, total story is intact. This one is an old one and just a fun little story about horses. And look at these illustrations, like on the farm. Oh my gosh, I love the yellows and the golds in the photos. Love it, love it, love it. Here's some book pieces, tablet paper. That's awesome. Okay, so those are the 4 little mini journals. Included with your journal, I've made some little pouches. And so the pouches, I've made them to the size of the actual book. So like, I tried to make it so that if you wanted to take your little pouch and washi tape it in, or if you could finagle your sewing machine and stitch it in, I made them so that they would actually fit in your journal. So each one of them I've like stuffed full of stuff, and I'm actually still stuffing stuff, but just let me show you a couple of the elements that I've put in. So I've made some of my little mini file folders, and so I've tucked those in. So you'll have some of those that you can use. Just some journaling cards, some playing cards, some wallpaper scraps. And then I've been really into this whole thing of interactive, like you making frames and all kinds of cool little pieces where you can see things peeking through. So I've made some little frames and stuck those in there. I'm actually working on I'm working on some little library pockets, but I'm not going to tell you. I'll let it be a surprise. Okay, so there's that one. And then these are for the large journal. I think this is the large journal, and this is just a garden book page. And again, you're going to have some file folders, some mini file folders, strawberry shortcake, because who doesn't love strawberry shortcake? Of course, in this one, you're going to get a little bit more because the book is a little bit larger. Some wallpaper, some frames that I've made and then stitched around. And then, so that'll be the larger journal. And I think this is the medium. Yeah, this is the medium-sized journal. And like I said, it should fit. We'll just check and make sure that it does fit. But I measured them. So there's your mini file folders again. Just some playing cards, wallpaper, frames. And then let's just make sure that this fits, because I don't want to lie to you. So we just fold it down. Yep, it'll fit. It'll come right off the edge of your page, but I think the pages are just short of 8 inches. So you could actually stick this in, you could glue it in, you could washi tape it in, and then you've just kind of got it, or you just actually stick it in and just take it with you. And then we'll check this one and make sure it fits. And again, these pages are just shy of 8 inches. And the pouches are 8 inches. All right, so if you stuck it in, you're gonna have just a little bit of overhang, not too much, but I'm okay. I like stuff hanging out of my journal, so I'd be okay with it. But you could washi tape it in if you wanted, or if you got really handy dandy with your sewing machine, you could stitch it down the side, or just tuck it inside, you know, if you wanted, or actually stick it in one of these pockets. Okay, guys, so there you go. There is my childhood favorites release that I will be doing on Saturday at 8 a.m., December 2nd. I'm really excited about these. I know I say this every time, but these were so much fun to make, because it just brought back so many memories of being a kid and just all the things I wanted to journal about. But another thing is that I feel like, you know, each time I do something, I get better and better and better at it. And I will say that I feel so confident about the quality of these journals. And I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying I feel really good about how I constructed these. I feel like this is a very sturdy, durable journal, and I want to keep them all, but I know I can't. But yeah, I truly, as I was making this, I just kept thinking, if this was my journal, what would I want this to be like? What would be the components that it would have, and how would I want it to lay, and what type of papers would I want it to have? So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.